In a world filled with Bigfoot podcasts, where believers and skeptics clash, one podcast stands tall, ready to separate fact from fiction. Welcome to That Bigfoot Podcast. Brian and Wayne are here to call out the hoaxers, shoot down the myths, and weed through the mountain of red circle squatches. There is no Bigfoot Kool-Aid drinking going on here. We're not here to blindly believe, but to uncover the truth about the legendary creature that has captivated the world for centuries. Each week, we'll dive deep into the evidence and share jaw-dropping insights that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about Bigfoot. So, if you're tired of the same old stories and want a podcast that separates fact from fiction, join us on That Bigfoot Podcast. Get ready for a wild ride through the mysterious world of Bigfoot. Strap in, skeptics and believers alike, because That Bigfoot Podcast is about to blow your mind. Don't miss out. Like, subscribe, and comment now, and let's uncover the truth together. That Bigfoot Podcast, where the bullshit ends and the hunt for truth begins.
And we are live. It actually worked the way it was supposed to. I can't freaking believe it. Wayne, what's going on, man?
What's up, buddy? How you doing today?
I'm hanging in like a hair in a biscuit, having a shitty day, but here we are on a random Thursday doing a live. So all is well at the What's happening? What was that weird noise? It's like was that Sam Squatch in the background? I don't know.
What the fuck abducted by aliens?
Whoa, something's coming. Oh, wait, they're coming through the window. Shit. What's going on, Marianne? Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Hello. I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm hanging in like a hair in a biscuit. We've already been talking, so you really know how I am. But thanks for asking anyway for the public appearance. We'll keep up public appearances for all the people watching. Thank you guys for piling into the chat. I was chatting with you guys. I was over on Untold Radio last night with Doug and his new co-host, the Big Ragu, over on Untold Radio, and I couldn't see the freaking chat. It was driving me insane. People were putting comments and things in the chat, and I was getting messages from folks on my phone, but I couldn't see the chat. So I'm glad that I'm able to see the chat tonight. I've been chatting with folks before we got on here live. I'm not going to do the big roll call. We're just going to dive into things. If you know you're here, we're saying hello to you collectively. If you're not here, raise your hand and let us know you're not here. Okay.
We're not here. We're gone.
Okay. We've got all the people that are here and not here. We've got Two Fingers in there. Troy, he's talking about smoking his meat on my property at some point in time this spring.
Wow.
I told him he asked me that on the show last night. It didn't get asked to me because I couldn't see it in the chat. So I told him he is welcome to smoke his meat anytime he wants to on the property. So I'm actually building a parking pad for him to park his big smoker with all of his meat in it.
Smoke that skin wagon.
Smoke the skin wagon. We can't do any more inside jokes from last year's Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference because people are going to start getting jealous. We've got to get 2025 underway. That's why we're here. Really, we're going to get into some other things. I've got a list of things that we'll probably get into, but the main reason we're here tonight is to welcome Marianne, who is the founder and the organizer of the Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference that you and I attended last year with some amazing speakers, Wayne. We had a blast out there with Marianne. We had a phenomenal time at the Campout, which we'll get into a little bit later on and talk about. But Marianne is here. Welcome, Marianne. And she is going to talk about this year's Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference. It is a labor of love for anybody who puts on a conference. So, Marianne, before we get into the lineup for this year, there's the official flyer, I guess you would call it, for the 4th annual Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference. Save the date, October 4th, 2025 at the Relics Event Center in Springfield, Missouri. Marianne, talk about the first time you put this conference together. What was the impetus? What was the genesis for you to want to put together a conference the first time you did this 4 years ago?
I was actually on the road coming home from a Kentucky expedition. And I'm like, why is there not more things going on in Missouri? Because it's a hot spot here. That's the one thing people don't realize. It really is a hot spot here. And I'm thinking about it on the way home, and it's like, why, and so when I got home, I started asking people, has there ever been a conference here? Has anybody ever done this? No. And I was talking to some of the old school thinkers, good luck with that, that kind of stuff, right? And I thought, well, okay, hide and watch, I'm going to do it. And the very first one that I put on, it was a small thing, and I stuck with speakers that were active here in Missouri is what we did the very first year, and then the second year we brought people in, a little bit farther out. And then last year, of course, we've expanded, and that's just where it is I want to expand, and continue to do what we're doing, but also be able to do the Campout and to have people out there to teach things, and just the camaraderie that ends up going on, once we get out there, because I think it builds a community of like-minded people that aren't hoaxing and aren't circling the red, blob squatches and, all those good things.
And I can tell you from personal experience, I've done quite a few speaking gigs, big conferences. And I can tell you, one of my favorite ones to do, I haven't spoken there, but I was there last year, was the Ohio Bigfoot Conference. I was out there with Cliff. I went out there and hung out with him. He wrote the foreword to my first book. So I went out and he was a speaker there, and I just hung out at his table and helped him sell things. And we sold books and signed books all day. And the day before that, we went out to a cabin, and we had Mark DeWorth, who puts that conference on. He was out there slinging hamburgers and hot dogs on the grill. And we were hanging out. There was probably 60 or 70 people that showed up there. And it was just the most amazing time. I got to hang out with, we're live. I can't have a brain fart live. We normally record this, and all this gets dumped onto the floor. And Wayne's like, it'll come to you, buddy. You'll be okay.
You'll get there.
Jay from Charlotte was there. I got to hang out with so many amazing people. You're breaking bread, you're standing around, having a good time, talking to people. And this was the night before the conference. And the conference, of course, was fantastic. We met, so many, probably 1,000 people came through Cliff's table that next day. We had a phenomenal time. But I tell you, the thing that really made me enjoy that the most was that camaraderie. It was the fellowship, if you will, for lack of a better term, the night before and the day of, and then the day after. And that's exactly what I experienced with you at the Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference last year. You and your amazing husband invited us into your home. We had the cook ladies there. We just broke bread and had a phenomenal time. And then, of course, the conference was amazing the next day. It's a great space. It's a great place for the conference itself. And then the Campout was absolutely one of the most fantastic things that I have done all year last year. Wayne and I laughed. I laughed so much my stomach hurt. We had such an amazing
chair.
Yes, we had such an amazing time hanging out around the campfire and just chilling and talking and telling stories. And honestly, I laughed so much. Like I said, my stomach hurt. Wayne, what was your favorite part? Did you have a favorite part of being involved in the Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference last year?
It was the Campout. I mean, 1,000%. I mean, I've talked about it so many times to so many different people. Y'all are probably tired of hearing me brag about this Campout, but it was the 3 days or whatever that we got to spend just hanging out and relaxing. Like Brian and myself, we create content. We're sitting behind computers and booking people and editing and putting all this stuff together for you guys to listen to. And I myself, I'm the president of a research organization. I get out and do as much as I can in the woods, looking around with my group, Animal Research. And it was just nice to be able to not worry about shit for 3 days, to just hang out. Most people there were getting out in the woods and doing hikes and stuff. Brian and I never did that once. In the 3 days, we just hung out at our tents. We took the long trip to meet the guy that kind of fell through.
Yeah.
But that was disappointing. But other than that, we just hung out and we used it as an opportunity to just unwind and relax. And we get that not everybody is there for that. Most everybody that signs up, Marianne, for your Campout, they're there to get out in the woods and interact and meet the speakers and all that stuff. But for Brian and myself, it wasn't that. And that's what kind of resonated with me. We got to meet all those amazing people and just relax for a few days and laugh. I mean, I'm a big guy. I didn't know I had abs, but they hurt after, on that drive home. I was like, what the hell is this going on in my stomach? I ain't done a sit up in 30 years, but it feels like I've been doing them.
Well, that's why we always knew where you two were at, because we could hear you laughing wherever we were at.
That's right.
So
And I was afraid that we were going to get in trouble. I really thought Marianne would not invite us back.
That's the God's honest truth. I didn't think they were going to have us back. I'm like, they probably think we are absolutely batshit crazy, but people seem to like us.
Thing. I'm normally like that, but see, I can't do that much when we're out there, because I'm in control of everything.
You're wearing the host hat during those days. And you did a great job doing it, but you also allowed us to be ourselves and everything. You did a phenomenal job. You really did. We're not going to call names. We're not going to get into details, but there was an annoyance at last year's event, and you handled that flawlessly, I believe. You do a really, really good job, Marianne. It's hard to believe that last year was just your third one, because it seemed like you've been doing it for a while, and for you to open your home to me personally, you gave me the guest room. Several people stayed at your home, but I got the royal treatment. You gave me the guest room upstairs with you and Robert. I had my own room. I wasn't sleeping with you and Robert. Get that out there.
Don't start anything else.
But you allowed me to come in, gave me the guest room, and you were accommodating, cooked an awesome meal, had everyone, all the speakers and everything show up for that part of it too. It was awesome. It was great. I know that you're going to be doing something a little bit different though this year. Do you want to talk about that before we go anywhere else?
We are. So this year we have added a VIP night, and we are going to be doing that. It's going to be right here in town at the Elks Lodge. And so and of course this includes you two, I want you guys to do some sort of podcast with the speakers and interaction with the attendees there. We're also going to serve dinner, and it is going to be barbecued smoked meat, and hopefully I can twist Troy's arm to where he'll come a day early and help my husband smoke all this meat. And Robert has this famous smoked macaroni and cheese with bacon. Yeah. Let me tell you, it's one of those. So, we're going to do the whole meal, and we're going to, yes, Troy, it will. I've already asked. It's an open bar, but it's a cash bar. You guys just have to pay for your own drinks. And we're going to cater the meal, and, we'll have our own section up there that night and just hang out, and you guys will be able to create some content, and we'll just have fun.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I have to honestly say very, very much. I want to echo what Wayne said. You are so welcoming and so attentive to everybody that's involved. And we can't say enough how far that goes for the experience, at least for us as speakers. And I know everybody that's involved felt the same way. So I just want to say that. Thank you for making it such an amazing event last year for us, and we know it's going to be even better here. Do you want to get right into the lineup and talk a little bit about the lineup, Marianne, and I'll show these flyers? Is that what you want to do at this point?
Sure. We'll go for it.
All right. Well, I'm just going to do it in whatever order I'd like. Why don't we do this guy? This is one of my favorite people that I got to hang out with last year. So talk about this fella right here.
Oh, gosh. Absolutely. Shane, a.k.a. Bacon. Yeah. Yes, Shane's going to be back, and that's because, he's a local guy. He's got the 400 that he works on all the time. So bringing him back in, that way he's able to bring us up to date on what's going on in the 400, because, that's an ongoing research area for him that he goes into, all the time. So, we bring him in, and there are times that he goes out with us. We go out privately. We've gone out on BFRO stuff. So, Shane's a big part of it. I told him one time, I said, I just include you whether you want to go or not. So I just drag him along for the ride.
And I had he and Randy Harrington on separately on the podcast at different times over the course of last year or the year before. So I was familiar with Shane and his work, but honestly, getting to hang out with Shane is, again, one of those absolute pleasures. He is one of the best, most down to earth, and so freaking knowledgeable about research and just tracking and being in the woods. I was like a sponge every time I was in a conversation with Shane Carpenter because he is such an amazing person. He's such a giving person and so easy to talk to and be around. Wayne, I know you probably felt the same way. I don't certainly want to put words in your mouth, but what did you not have the same feeling from Shane? And we were both a little apprehensive about that, honestly, because Shane has a way of initially appearing a little standoffish because he's protective of his area. He's protective of his research with folks that he doesn't know. But I tell you, once you crack that shell with him, again, you become a sponge when you're around him because of the things that he knows and he's willing to share. What was your experience, Wayne?
Yeah, you took that right out of my mouth because I had the only interaction I had with Shane before the conference was when he came on very briefly for an episode of this show, that Bigfoot podcast, to talk. And I'll be honest, his reputation kind of held up to me. A bit standoffish, can seem like an asshole, but he's not. He's not. That's just his personality. I hung out with him on several times on this trip that we're talking about, and he was just so cool, just down to earth. He and I at the VIP didn't work. He had this documentary crew that's been following him for a while, and the ladies were there. They were awesome, and so that was kind of unique for me to see that. I don't know anything about that documentary. Hopefully, we'll get some information when it's going to come out. But you would think somebody like that would have a huge head, oh, these people are following me. All they care about is what I'm doing. But no, he was just extremely down to earth. I like the hell out of the guy. I really do. And to be 100% honest, I didn't think I would. I didn't think I would care much for him. I thought maybe we would clash, bump heads a little bit, but nothing further from the opposite of that.
Hey, you know how we roll on that Bigfoot podcast. We're not going to pull any punches. If we didn't think we were going to like you, by God, we're going to tell you. But if we like you, we're going to tell you that too. So yeah, Shane is an awesome dude. And just his presentation alone, that's the other thing we need to talk about. If you have not seen Shane Carpenter's presentation on Bigfoot and seen all of the evidence that he brings and the knowledge and experience that he brings, he is worth the price of admission, hands down, in my opinion, alone. So if Shane was the only person that was going to be there, he is worth attending the Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference by and large, and hands down, no doubt about it. But he's not the only person that's going to be there.
Nope.
Let me pull up another one here and put Marianne on the spot. Let's talk a little bit about this fella here.
Well, I found out about David from Wayne. And, Wayne suggested him, and David and I had a very nice, interesting phone call one afternoon. And let me tell you what, that's one intelligent man. Yes. He, I am so excited to get to sit down and listen to his presentation. He also has agreed that when we are out camping, to do some teaching for us. He's going to teach us some casting techniques, forensics collections. He's very excited about getting to do that. So we're going to take advantage of him and let him teach us all kinds of goodies out there. Because, who better to learn from than somebody that does that for a living?
Yeah.
Oh, so David, you're just going to roll in and take my job. That's cool, man. That's cool. No, I'm just kidding. So Wayne, talk about, David. I have not had David on the show. I think we've been working to get him on. I don't know if we're in the process of trying to get him scheduled or not, but David. So talk a little bit about your experience and what you know about David.
I do know David. I know him pretty well. He is a member of Manimal Research. The first time I met him was at our Squatch Out last year in September. He came up. hung out with us, and if I remember correctly, like 2 or 3 days after the Squatch out, he contacted me and said, "Hey, I want to join Manimal," and did everything, to join. And I've been talking to him quite a bit since. He is in Georgia. He is a forensics guy. He works for a police department in Georgia. He can't say which one. That's the only thing he's asked me to do, is just he can't reveal that, given his job. But you watch CSI, CSI Miami, just all that cool stuff. That's David. That's what he gets to do. How freaking awesome is that? And he took an interest in Bigfoot and has ran with it. He was at our last gathering that we did on Black Friday. Actually, the Friday after Thanksgiving, there was 12 or 13 of us that met and camped, and he was there. His truck is awesome. He's got this awesome setup. I could spend an hour talking about his setup. It's really, really cool. But I think the world of David. David and I actually have talked about your event, Marianne. I put him in contact with you and recommended him. He is like an hour and a half south of me. So I think what we're going to do is he's going to come up and pick me up, and we are going to ride to the event together.
Sweet.
And the night before, I think we're going to get a night of camping in, very possibly in the LBL, because the LBL is about a halfway point. So, so we're going to camp in the LBL, and then we will ride the rest of the way in to your event. But again, David is an awesome dude. I cannot be more happy to have him as a part of my organization. He's like Marianne said, he's very smart. He's great at what he does. There's so much more I could say about him, but I'm going to stop bragging on him right now. I don't want him to get a big head.
I'm definitely looking forward to having him over on Sasquatch Odyssey and having some conversations with him. From a former Atlanta police officer to another police officer in Georgia, I appreciate your service, man, and I'm looking forward to meeting you and hanging out with you. I was going through the chat as we're looking here. It looks like everybody's just talking to themselves. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to pull somebody else up here. Let's talk a little bit about this fellow right here.
Oh, my goodness, Ryan. Okay, so Brian is the one that suggested that Ryan would be a good fit. And I spoke with Ryan, and let me tell you what, that was a hysterical conversation. But this guy is phenomenal. He's phenomenal. I can't even tell you how much stuff he's been in as far as TV, and I'm so excited to be able to meet him and spend time with him and just hear all the stories that he has to tell. I'm just over the moon about it. And every time I talk to him, I'm that much more excited about when he's going to get here and getting to camp with him and just being in his presence.
Let me tell you a little bit about Ryan RPG Golembeski. If you have not had the pleasure of meeting this fella, he is one of the most infectious personalities that I have ever had the pleasure of being around. I talked to Ryan a couple of times, and the first time I met him was a few years ago. I think it was maybe 3 years ago, back at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference up in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And the first thing he did was come up to me and give me this huge bear hug, picked me up off the ground, and told me what a superstar I was and how honored he was to meet me. And he instantly made me feel like the most important person on the planet. And that is what Ryan does. And it is one of the most genuine things that you will ever experience in your life. I've gotten to go all over the place with this dude. I've been in the woods with him. I've had some phenomenal experiences out on expedition with this dude. And even in the worst of times, he is the rock that holds the team together. And I can't say enough great things about him. He has been the MC of the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference and the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference for the last several years for Nikki and Marty over at Gather Up Events. And he is the best in the business as far as I'm concerned when it comes to MCing events. And he also has his own experiences. He is a phenomenal researcher. He is a phenomenal boots on the ground going after Bigfoot guy. So, and he has tons of stories. If you get the opportunity, he will make you piss your pants with his Matthew Moneymaker impression. If you ever get the pleasure of having Ryan do his Matt Moneymaker impression, I think I peed a little bit, certainly the first time that he did it in Florida for me last year. So if you get the opportunity to do that on the Campout with Ryan, just pull him aside and say, hey, can you do your Matt Moneymaker impression? He'll probably go on for 30 minutes, and it'll be the best 30 minutes you've ever had in your life. Wayne, you've met Ryan, I think, up in Tennessee. What is your dealings with Ryan? What do you know about him?
Yeah, like you, the first time I met him was at the Smoky Mountain Conference, but I believe it was a year later after you met him. You and I went up there, and I met him there for the first time. Just seems like a really cool, down-to-earth guy. And I was talking, which is awesome for me, and I'm sure you, I was talking to Marianne, and Marianne does at the Campout, she has these tent setups. She sets all that stuff up before, and the one that Brian and I had last year, it's a 10 by 10 canopy, and on 3 sides of that 10 by 10 are tents. It's a really, really cool setup, very spacious. So there's 3 tents, and then the front wall is like open, so you can like hang out in the middle with the covering, your chairs out, tables, and all that stuff. So our setup is going to be me, Brian, and RPG, and I cannot wait for that. We are going to be the it corner again. It's going to be hopping. Come hang out at our corner when you come to the conference or to the Campout.
We'll just tell you now, though, that Wayne is in bed and asleep by 10 o'clock.
Allegedly. He might be up a little bit longer. If Nona Boss is over there telling stories and keeping us up, we'll stay up a little bit later.
Nope, she's going to the woods with me. I've already told her I'm taking her to the top of the hill again.
Sunny beaches. All right, let's keep this moving. Let's go to our next speaker here. Marianne, you want to talk about Mr. Todd Neese?
Yes. This is going to be the first time I've ever got to hear Todd speak. I know, isn't he originally, he was out in Washington, correct? He now lives in Arkansas. So he's close to us here. And he's the founder of Beachfoot, right, Brian?
That is correct. He sent me an email yesterday re-inviting me to Beachfoot, and unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to go.
Yeah. So he's going to be with us. He's going to be speaking. And as far as I know, he's going to be camping with us also. And, it's like you said, he's been on several things. He has all kinds of accolades. I can't even begin to, go through them all. He's been in this for a long time. I know originally he started out in the BFRO a long time ago. He's no longer in it, but that's where he started. So I'm sure he's got all kinds of stories that he can share with us and experiences. So, that's going to be interesting. And I believe, that he's even had some experiences since he's moved into Arkansas. So that will be interesting to see what he's got for us.
Yeah, I tell you, Todd has been doing this for a lot of years. I've had him on the show a couple of times. He's actually dropped in a couple of times on some lives with Wayne and I. We stay in regular contact with each other, and he has some amazing stories. He is very knowledgeable. He knows everybody there is to know. I mean, Beachfoot is it's an invite-only event. It's been going on, I think this is the 18th year, and sadly, I think this is going to be the last year for Beachfoot. Maybe I misread that. I
think you're right. I think you're right.
And I was really wanting to go. It's something I've always wanted to attend, and there's going to be some phenomenal people there this year. And I just don't think I'm going to be able to make it with my schedule because it's on the edge of the world. It's one of the farthest places you can travel from where I'm at, and I just can't make it work with my schedule. But I definitely appreciate him asking me, Todd, inviting me to be a part of Beachfoot. I really appreciate that. Just to be asked. He only sends out like 100 invitations a year, so it's not something that everybody gets to go to. So I really appreciate being on that short list. But yeah, he's had some phenomenal experiences. He's been out in the field with some amazing people like Ron Moorhead, Peter Byrne. I mean, you name it. Todd's been out there doing it, and he's had some really cool experiences. He's had some really interesting experiences that would be what some people would consider high strangeness. So if you haven't heard him tell those stories, I'm sure it's part of his presentation, and he'll certainly tell some of that around the campfire. It's never a dull moment with Todd. Like I said, he knows everybody who's anybody in Bigfoot. So Wayne, have you ever had him on the show, or is the only interaction you've ever had with Todd is when he's called in a couple of times and interacted with us on lives? Or
Oh no, he's been on the show a couple of times. Back when it was Manimal Research, and I believe I got him on when I took over for Paranormal Odyssey. We text from time to time. It has been a while, but I talked to him. He reached out to me actually and asked me, how do I get involved in this event? And then I reached out to Marianne, and he's involved. Yeah, Todd's a good dude. He has invited me to Beachfoot as well. I hate that I've never been, and it saddens me to know that this is the last year of it.
yeah, it's just a really cool thing. And the thing that they've done with Beachfoot that I've really thought was the coolest thing is very similar to what Marianne does. It's more of an atmosphere where everybody's somebody. That's the best way I can describe the Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference. Everybody is somebody, and you get treated the same way. And that's one thing I love about Beachfoot is it's not, there can be hierarchy, honestly, when it comes to these conferences. If you go to these conferences and you're not a speaker or you're just this or just that, you kind of get relegated to your corner and you kind of stay in your lane. But that's not what Todd has done with Beachfoot, and it's certainly not what Marianne has done with the Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference. Everybody has a say. Everybody is just as important as the next person. So I'm stoked to get to hang out with Todd and soak in some of his knowledge, man. He's been doing this, like I said, for a long time and knows everybody that is somebody in Bigfoot. So I'm looking forward to camping with him and soaking in some of that stuff. Let's talk about this next guy here. One of my favorite people, honestly, in Bigfoot and cryptid stuff. I've been on his show a couple of times. I've had him on my podcast, and he is a super guy. Let's talk a little bit about D.A. Roberts.
Yes, D.A. is a local author. He lives right here in Springfield, and he does have a podcast. I've been on his podcast at least once. I think Nona Boss and I were on there one time, and he does some researching in this area and has some experiences. He's got a whole group of guys that get on there, and they're a hoot to listen to sometimes. But yeah, he's going to be with us. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to camp or not. We hadn't got that far, but he's definitely going to be speaking and will be at the VIP event for sure.
Very cool stuff. DA, I can't wait for you guys to hear about some of his dogman experiences that really are terrifying to me. He tells the stories like nobody's business. If you haven't heard him talk about his experiences with Bigfoot and with Dogman, it is worth the price of admission for sure. Wayne, I know you've known DA for quite a while. What has been your experience with DA?
Hell of a dude. He's been on my show a couple times. I got to hang out with him in person for the first time at the Ohio conference that I believe both he and I will be at again this year, the Spirit of the Forest in the Greenville, Ohio. Last year was the first one. This year will be the second one. Susan puts on an amazing event out there, and I don't know if she's announced it yet, but I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a spoiler. Mr. God, his name just escaped me.
The one that you told me about?
Yes.
You want me to say it?
Russell Accord.
There you go. That's it.
Russell Accord will be.
Winner.
Yeah, Russell Accord will also be speaking at that event that I'll also be at in Ohio. DA, he's an awesome guy. I really, really like him. Like you spoke about some of his Dogman stuff. I am on record, and I've said it so many times. I don't know what I think about Dogman, and that pisses a lot of people off. One of my great friends in this world is Naomi Finn. I love her like a mother. I mean, she's an awesome lady, but I think I pissed her off when I told her that. I don't know what I think about Dogman. And maybe I've always thought that maybe Dogman could be a misidentification of a different type of Bigfoot. But the hardcore Dogman people that you say that to look at you like you're stupid. Like, no, it's completely different. So I don't know. I don't know what to think about Dogman, but people like DA that are very reputable, that are well spoken and knowledgeable, say that this is a different thing, and they're out there. So I don't know. DA has some amazing stories to tell, some of the stuff he's experienced. I can't wait to get to hang out with him again in more of an intimate setting. I really, really hope that he gets to camp. I really do.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same thing. I'd love to have him sit around the campfire and talk more about that, because I too, like you, have been on record for quite a while saying I'm not really sure what I think about Dogman. But when you hear someone like DA, former law enforcement as well, DA was a cop for a lot of years. I think he's retired. I think he's out of that now. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure he is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, not that cops or former cops are any more credible than anybody else, but when you have somebody with that type of training, there's a certain training that gets drilled into your head. At least it was for us. I mean, we went through a 6-month paramilitary academy at Atlanta Police when I was a cop there, and you get taught how to observe. You are a trained observer. And for a trained observer with as many years as DA did in law enforcement, saying, look, I saw something that looked like a freaking werewolf standing in the woods, you got to perk up and pay attention. So I too, like you, Wayne, am very interested in hearing more about that from DA in person. Ask him some questions maybe that we didn't get to ask on when he's on a podcast, and have some of those conversations. And that's what you guys can do if you're a part of the Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference. It's not one of those things where the speakers just make an appearance and we come down from the ivory tower and speak for 30 or 45 minutes and then we're gone. It's always we're around, people are talking, we're having conversations, and it is one of the most amazing things about what we get to do. Like Wayne said earlier, I think you referenced it. We create content. We talk about Bigfoot face to face like we're doing now, but it's on a computer. It's a different thing when you're in person with people and you get to come up and shake people's hands. You get to put your arm around them. You get to take a picture with them and have a face to face conversation. There's just something very special about that. And again, I say it often, the Campout is the way to go. If you can be a part of the Campout, it is that times 1,000 in my opinion, because you get a couple of days, 2 or 3 days. I think we're out there 3 or 4 days. I think I was out there a little bit longer than anticipated because my flight got messed up because of weather, but I was totally okay with staying an extra day. I was elated when I was able to change my flight and leave a day later, because I got more time with you guys out there at the Campout. And I can't stress enough how well Marianne and the cook ladies and everybody involved in this take care of people. If somebody asked me once if I was okay and needed anything, 3 days, I never went a second without having everything that I needed at my fingertips. It is one of the most amazing experiences that you guys will ever experience. So if you get a chance to do it, if you're in the area, you can pick up a ticket and come by and see us. We would love to see everybody there. Am I missing anybody on the speaking list? Who is this dude right here?
Who that?
Brother Wayne.
He looks like he smells something.
He smells a Sam Squatch.
Well, you could have used the other one with the yellow overalls. You know.
Yeah, I didn't send him that one.
You didn't send him that one?
But if you get to camp out with him in October, it gets a little brisk out there in the mornings in October in Missouri. Wayne will or will not. It's still alleged. We have not proven this, but he may or may not come out of his tent looking like a large minion.
What the hell is what is y'all's fascination with my overalls?
Oh my God,
dude, it was one of the funniest things I've ever witnessed in my life. I think,
and I can't believe nobody has a picture of it.
I know. Did we not take a picture? I think I peed on myself a little bit because I laughed
There's
so hard.
Pictures from our last event, the Manimal one, where I'm wearing them, but I don't know. I mean, they're comfortable, they're warm, they're thermal insulated overalls. I just chose bright ash yellow as the color.
There you go. If that is not enough to entice you to get a ticket to come out and camp out with us, just so you can see Wayne stumble out of his tent in the morning looking like a minion on the way to breakfast, I don't know what'll do it for you. That has got to be the thing that gets everybody to the camp out.
Yeah, whatever. Yep. Well, who else? Who else, Brian?
I don't know of anybody else that's coming.
Yeah, go ahead. There he is. Look how handsome
Big
he
Daddy
is.
Brian.
Don't that look like a penis with ears?
Who that is? He looks squatchy. Screw y'all both.
What goes on at the Campout, people?
We didn't talk about the food. And food is a very, very important part of life. We all got to eat, you know? And why not have it taste amazing? And that's what they do at this event. Oh my freaking God. Those God tacos.
I knew those tacos were going to come up.
Shit. Who expected to have smoked pork tacos on a campout? They were, oh my God, they were so good.
Cook ladies in the house.
You're requesting pork tacos again, and you would like biscuits and gravy.
I gotta have biscuits and gravy every morning.
Please. Yes.
Yes.
I'm not coming without the biscuits and gravy.
Oh my gosh, you guys are such prima donnas. All right.
Those ladies do such an amazing job. They were the unsung heroes. Everybody was there to hear the speakers and go out camping and look for Bigfoot and all that stuff. But these ladies kept us fed. They were amazing. Can't say enough awesome stuff about those ladies. And the food really was, it was awesome, Marianne. The lasagna that you made for the night before event was amazing. And yeah, the food is great. If you are entertaining the idea of coming and camping, your food is provided. I mean, what the hell, guys? You get to hang out in the woods, go looking for Bigfoot if you want. If not, you get to come hang out with the drunk assholes in the corner that are way too loud. Brian and me.
And Robert.
Speak for yourself.
And Robert.
Robert,
I love you, buddy.
You think Robert to be in our corner this year? Is Robert going to be back in our corner?
Well, if he doesn't camp over there with you, he'll be there. You know how he is.
He was camped literally on the other side of the field, but he hung out with us every night.
Right? He walked all the way across that field every day. You know, it was funny.
And we were glad to have him. But again, the food, ladies, the food is amazing. All the accommodations were great. You do such an amazing job, Marianne. I can't wait. I cannot wait for this year and next year, hopefully.
Let's talk a little bit about we're not just going out camping in some area that there hasn't been any kind of activity. Marianne, let's talk a little bit about that, because you guys have had activity over the course of the last few years. I just had Daniel Perez on. Daniel and I were talking about this the other day, and he actually sent me, after we had this conversation, Daniel was there a couple of years ago when you guys had one of these things come through the camp, and Shane Carpenter was able to track it. Daniel was there. He wrote about it in the Bigfoot Times. And after I had a conversation with Daniel the other day, we were texting back and forth, and he actually sent me the Bigfoot Times that he put out the month following his camp out there. So can you talk a little bit about the setup for the camp out, where we go, Marianne, and what you guys have experienced there in the past as far as activity with Bigfoot on the camp out?
Absolutely. Yeah, this property is private property, and this gentleman is very gracious to let us come back out there. And he was having activity on the property. When he moved to the property, and he lives off grid, so everything that he has is like solar, he gets his water straight out of the hillside type thing. When him and his wife first moved there, it was just the two of them. And in the middle of the night, there were rocks landing on top of the metal roof in the house they were staying in. And that started to happen. And they were seeing movement in the woods during the day, just all these odd things. And, they didn't really know what was going on. I mean, there's no neighbors that are really close to him, as you guys saw, when we get in there. And so it was like, they for a long time had all this odd activity and they weren't really sure what it was. And once he started to do a little bit of research, realized this is what this possibly could be, right? And he actually had reached out to Shane, and Shane is the reason that we get to go to this property. Basically, Shane, turned it over to me because he doesn't have time with the 400 to be out there and doing stuff. And so, we've become very good friends with the gentleman that owns the property. He loves having everybody out there. And every so often, I hear things from you, like recently. So I think the last snow we had was like 3 weeks ago, right? He sent me a video of some tracks, but he was also talking about, and this is really funny because I know I haven't told either one of you this, but he was talking about that him and his son were in the wood shop working, and the dogs go running past, bark, 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 and then just stop. And so that got their attention. They step out, and the dogs are just standing there staring at the woods, but they're not barking. And he said, usually the dogs are barking all the time, when there's something out there. And they're trying to figure out what's going on. And I don't know if you guys remember last year, but he talked about having these odd howls. And it will start off as like a howl and ends in that hyena laugh. And he had that happen twice within the last month. And he's got some odd tracks. Now, the tracks I'm not sure about because Shane and I were discussing them. And we're not sure if those were taken once there had been some melting started, or if we just didn't have all the information yet. But he's had some odd activity in the last month out there. And then he has, activity in the springtime, fall. He'll go to the creek that we crossed and wash his car. He's had rocks thrown into the creek when he's doing that. It's just kind of become second nature out there of stuff going on. So, that's what goes on out there. They've had thermal hits before. When Shane was out there, they've had thermal hits. We had thermal hits up on the hill that last year. The first year that we camped out there is the year that Daniel's talking about. And it was the last night. And we had a little storm just blow up out of nowhere. And we had our cook tent actually out in the middle of that field, and everybody was camped around the edges. Well, it was utter chaos for about 30 minutes out there. And we lost that cook tent. We have had to replace that. But so everybody finally calmed down, got back in their tents, after that was all over. And the next morning we had gotten up, and I'm hearing, Robert says to me, I think there was something outside the tent last night. I'm like, yeah, I got to go to the bathroom. I don't have time. And on the way back from the bathroom, I'm hearing people talking about, I heard something. I heard this, I heard that, Well, so Nona Boss and I were talking to Daniel, and Daniel's getting ready to leap off out into the high weeds because we can see something, and we had to kind of refrain him from taking off. We're like, let us get Shane up. Shane wasn't up yet. And so we woke Shane up, and he told me later, he goes, I was about ready to kill you all because I knew there wasn't a damn thing out there, and you're going to make me get up and go look. Well, yeah. He had to eat crow because there was something. It had come in. So where your tent was at was where Nona Boss's tent was at. And then there was a car in between her tent and our tent. And one of her, the ladies that she had came with was in the car. And she woke up and saw it standing behind Robert and I's tent. see it over the top of the tent, and she's a paranormal investigator, so she did not know what to do. And so basically she watched it for a few minutes and then pulled the covers back up over her head because she was afraid if she tried to take a picture of it, the flash would, well, she looked to see what time it was. And as she's talking about it and telling that coincides with when Robert looked to see what time it was, because he could hear it back there behind the tent. And then we had a couple of gentlemen that were down the way from us, and they heard it a few minutes later. There was a couple of other ladies farther down from them. They heard it. It went down, walked around the porta potty, went down, walked around the creek over there, the way that you go to the house. And it made its way all around the wood line and went basically behind everybody's tent. And Shane was able to track it because of the storm. He was able to go through the grass and see the compression tracks that it had left. So yeah, that was our first year that we camped out there. We had one come into the camp area. So they like to come check us out.
That is so cool. And I did some audio stuff, and I captured some interesting things on audio last year. There were people that went out and heard some interesting things when they were out at night. So yeah, it's an active area. So you're not getting just the conference, but you get to camp in an active area where these things have been over the last couple of years. And obviously, as you just said, recent activity. So it's a cool thing. It's a really awesome combination, in my opinion, because I've never done a speaking gig at a conference and then done a camp out afterwards. So anybody who gets the opportunity and can come to the event, I think it's an awesome thing. I was looking through the chat to see if there's anything. Yeah, talk amongst yourselves as I look through the chat, Wayne.
Yeah, I was just gonna agree with you, Brian. I cannot stress that enough. If you're in the area, if you're not in the area, and you have the ability, you have the financial means to come out and do this. If this is your passion, if you're interested in this, there's so many other things you can spend money on. But if this is what you're interested in, I promise you won't be disappointed. It's amazing. You get to the first night, you get to listen, or you're going to go to the VIP, and then you're going to get the conference the next day. And then you get, how many days of camping is it, Marianne?
So we leave right after the conference and we head to the Campout. And we try to have all of our stuff already set up so that we can help everybody else. And the cook ladies are going to throw a quick dinner together. And that first night is basically, we're just going to chill and hang out and get to know each other. I mean, if somebody is really gung ho, okay, we'll take you to the top of the hill, or we'll do something, but yeah, it's like you're out there, you get to have a good time. It's just, I don't know, there's something about the camaraderie. We're eating together, we're spending that time together, and you're with like-minded people, people that have experienced this or want to experience it, or just, nothing else. They're camping with a bunch of cool people.
Yeah. So after the conference on Saturday, we head out there. Yes. And then when are we packing up to leave?
Wednesday morning, or whenever you have to. I mean, we will be, Robert and I and the cook ladies will for sure be there until Wednesday morning. So everybody else, I highly encourage everybody to stay the whole time, because just as soon as you leave is when something's going to happen. That's how it happens.
Exactly. So you got Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night, and Tuesday night.
Yeah, 4 nights.
Guys, 4 nights. I don't know what she's charging, what they're charging for the event this year, and we don't have to get into that right now. But come on, you get fed the entire time. You have a place to stay the entire time. You get to hang out with all these cool people the entire time. It's like a little mini vacation. if you are interested in the Bigfoot subject and you are able to do it, I highly recommend you look into coming to this conference and especially the Campout.
I concur.
Well, of course, I'm going to tell you to come.
Of course she is.
Of course.
So this wouldn't be That Bigfoot Podcast if we didn't get into something else before we get out of here. I've made a couple of notes about some things that have been on my radar, and I want to get Marianne sounding off about this. So the first thing I want to talk about a little bit is the Sierra Sounds. As I said, I recorded some interesting audio there last year at the Campout. People heard some interesting things. I know that the owner of the property has had some weird experiences with vocalizations in the past. I don't know if we talked about this when you were on the podcast before, Marianne, but where are you on the Sierra Sounds? And this is the loaded question, but no pressure at all. Just tell us, what do you think about the Sierra Sounds in general?
Well, I've been listening to you talk about it, and where I was kind of at was I hadn't listened to them in a long time. And then but I was trying to just remember when I had heard them. And one of the things I was always thinking when I heard them was, it sounds like they're all right there on top of the mic, right? Well, then you had played something not long ago when you guys were talking about it, and that sounded different. That actually sounded different, like there could be some distance in between them. Now, when you play that one, that one makes me sit up and go, okay, that sounds, So I don't know if the other one that I was thinking about that I heard that maybe it had been cleaned up or something else done to it. I don't know. I've been with people who have come in and talked about hearing the samurai chatter here in Missouri. They've had that happen here in Missouri. So, I don't know. We hear so many odd things out there. I want to say yes, 100%. But sometimes, I'm on the fence. I really don't know. I don't have a definitive answer for you. I'd like to say 100%. I believe it. And most days, well, I'm going to use one of your saying, Brian, 90% of the time I'm right there with it. But then 10% of the time I'm like, well, I don't know, And I understand that he's got more hours of it. I understand also that this is the best of the best. And that's why we've only heard this. So I get that. That's reasonable. But you have to be skeptical of everything. I hate it that we can't believe it 100%, but I'm picking that up from my skeptical husband.
Y'all know,
definitely skeptical. Yes. Go ahead, Wayne.
Y'all know 60% of the time it works every time.
That's the Sasquatch Savant, ladies and gentlemen. This is the only show that has a Sasquatch Savant. And when he says something like that, you just got to go, absolutely. And I bring that up selfishly, I guess, because I wanted to announce over here on the live. I know we've talked about it on the show before. I've talked about it on Sasquatch Odyssey. I am actually going up to Ron Moorhead's house here on the 25th of February this month. And we're going to sit down. We've got, I think, 3 or 4 hours set aside for a face-to-face sit-down interview. And Ron is going to play for us and my audience some of those unheard, unreleased Sierra sounds. And he and I have been texting back and forth. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to help him edit some of those other hours down that he has. And we'll be able to bring those to the public at some point in time in the future, because I think those are really important one way or the other. I'm still on the fence about it. Honestly, I don't really know what we're listening to there. So I am definitely looking forward to sitting down and talking to Ron face to face here at the end of the month and getting into those unplayed sounds that we've actually, if you guys want to tune in as we're doing this tomorrow, I've got a little snippet of some of those unreleased sounds in that episode that Wayne and I recorded that will air tomorrow on That Bigfoot Podcast. So make sure you check that out. But there's many, many more hours of that to come, hopefully. So Let me talk about this. This is something that Wayne and I didn't get into on the last episode because we kind of shifted into that, and we talked a little bit about the Todd Gatewood, Patterson Gimlin film scenario that's going on. But this is something that came up recently that Wayne and I really didn't get to talk about, and I haven't even gotten his reaction about this. We've talked about Mike Patterson so many times on the show, Sasquatch, Ontario. That's Wayne's reaction. Anytime I say anything about anybody north of the border, whether it be Todd Standing or Mike Patterson from Sasquatch, Ontario, I found this very interesting. If you guys haven't checked this out, you need to go. It's worth a listen. It's worth a look. Mike Patterson put out a video. What was it, last week, Wayne, I think, where he had Dwayne, this guy who has, in my opinion, been helping him perpetrate this hoax for the last 12 years or so, come on his podcast on YouTube. And the video is black. I still, to this day, if Wayne walked in here, if Dwayne walked in here right now in my studio, I wouldn't know who he was because I still haven't seen this guy. But his voice is very distinct. So Mike had this video he posted up over on Sasquatch, Ontario. I guess it was last week sometime. It popped up in my thread, and I was like, okay, I'm going to look at it. He had Dwayne come on and sit at his kitchen table and explain why Dwayne came out years ago and said that everything they were doing was a hoax. He was the voice of Neff. He made it all up. What? My Mike is also bad, Mike. And did all the voices because he was being harassed by people who were trespassing on his property. And look, if somebody's trespassing on your property, that's not cool. If somebody's harassing his family, that's not cool. You shouldn't be doing those things. So I'm just going to go on record and say shame on you if that's the case. But he was alleging, it sounded to me like he was alleging that Todd Prescott from the Sasquatch archives was one of the main people that were doing these things to him. So I don't know about that. I'm not going to wade into those waters, but in a nutshell, basically, Mike had Dwayne on to say that, yeah, I said that years ago that it was all a hoax, but I only said that because these people were threatening my family and trespassing on my property. I'm going to be honest with you. I call bullshit here.
Bullshit.
You cannot admit that something is a hoax, and there's video out there on the Truth Prevails website on YouTube. If you guys want to check out the Truth Prevails on YouTube, it's all there in its glory. It's documented. Dwayne is saying that he is the voice of Neff, and he is talking in Neff's voice, saying that Mike is a bad boy. All of the time. It is an exact match to, quote unquote, Nephatia's voice. This alleged Sasquatch that, I got balloons coming. This alleged Sasquatch voice that Mike Patterson has said is Neff all these years. Marianne, I don't think you and I have ever talked about this. Have you ever looked into the Mike Patterson Sasquatch Ontario debacle? And if so, what do you think about all this stuff?
I have not. I've listened to you talk about it, and just listening to you talk about it, and the ridiculousness of what's going on. I mean, if they've already said it's a hoax because of harassment, it's like, okay, we should be done. We should be done. That should be it. Nobody should be paying attention to them anymore. They've admitted it. But obviously, like we have everything, the blob squatches and everything else circled, people are still paying attention to it. And, I know at one point in time you were wondering if this guy was being hoaxed himself. No, I think he's in on it. They've just decided it gets them the views and everything else. And so they're just going to continue on with it because there's people who have not researched it. They don't know what's going on. They don't know the past. So they're buying into it 100%. And, shame on them. Do some research. Look them up.
Wayne, I have no idea how you feel about this. What do you think about Dwayne coming on and saying, yeah, I said it was a hoax, but it's not really a hoax. I'm not really Neff. It's all real.
I just feel like they're both dumber than a bag of hair. I mean,
and this would be a bag of rocks.
No, bag of hair. I mean,
Okay.
A bag of hair is way worse than rocks.
Yeah,
Okay.
hair's a lot dumber than rocks. I mean, everybody knows that, Marianne. Come on.
Okay, fine. Is it a specific kind of hair?
I mean,
Don't say blonde, we'll get canceled. Say it was dark brown.
No, I wasn't going to say blonde. I was above the shoulders, below the shoulders.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
dumber than a box of pube hairs.
There
How
we
about
go.
that?
We just got canceled. That's it.
Yeah, we did.
We had 1,000 people watching us, and now we're down to like 30. Thanks, Wayne. No, seriously, what do you think about him coming out and saying, "Yeah, I said this was a hoax, but oh, sorry, not really."
Well, the first thing, Brian, when you sent this to me, your follow-up text was, "I kind of feel like we're partly responsible for this because we have called this bitch out like 3 or 4 times. I personally, at least 2 or 3 times, to have Dwayne come out and explain this. And lo and behold, what happens? Dwayne comes out and explains this. Okay. So they're listening to us. How fucking stupid do you think we have to be? And when I text you, Brian, after I listened to this, all the shit that they talk about, all these explanations and everything, why doesn't he hit? His words were, "I did my best performance, my best, example of Nephatius, or what the fuck his name is." And no, dude, you did the exact fucking same thing. You admitted years ago that you were faking this shit. This guy pisses me off in ways that I just cannot explain to you. He is taking advantage of so many people. He is laughing his stupid ass way to the bank every fucking month with all of the people that buy into this garbage. It's bullshit. I don't know what else I can say. I don't know what else anybody can say about this. You don't have a goddamn Sasquatch sitting next to you farting that nobody can see, okay? You don't have footprints magically appearing to you, but beside you in the snow as you walk along. You are a dumb fuck. That's it.
So we'll eventually try to get Wayne to give us his full opinion on that, ladies and gentlemen. So tune in to the next episode of That Bigfoot Podcast, and Wayne might actually tell you what he really feels about that. So last but not least, we got to talk about this. This has been on our radar for quite some time, and it is the Todd Gatewood, that Patterson Gimlin film debacle that's going on right now. I had this conversation, as I said, a couple of days ago with Daniel Perez. He just had a new book come out, The Bigfoot at Bluff Creek, a pictorial review, basically, of the Patterson Gimlin film. It's a phenomenal book. Honestly, I think Daniel did a phenomenal job with this. He's got some really cool things in the book. If you guys haven't checked it out, make sure you check it out and subscribe to the Bigfoot Times. It is a really cool, it is the longest running ink to paper in the mail newsletter in the history of the United States. It's basically the only one that's still going. So definitely check out the Bigfoot Times and check out Daniel's book. But this whole Todd Gatewood thing, Wayne and I talked about this on the episode that's actually going to drop tomorrow. So this is kind of a preemptive strike for you guys. But Gatewood has come out recently. He's had an interview with Meldrum over on, I didn't even know he had a YouTube channel. I didn't know he was into podcasting at all. I thought he was just kind of doing his thing with the film, but it sort of made sense. But he had Meldrum on talking about this historic moment and what he had found that had never been seen before in the Patterson Gimlin film. And basically, in my opinion, Jeff said, this is kind of a nothing burger. We've been talking about this for years. What you found here, as far as the feet are concerned, yeah, but it's not the best I've seen out of the film. I got the impression that Gatewood was fishing for some sort of validity from having Jeff Meldrum on to talk about this historic thing that he had found in the film. And then lo and behold, at the end of the last episode that you guys will hear tomorrow on that Bigfoot podcast, he's talking about this historic thing that he found in the film, but I found it to be really a nothing burger. Have you been following this, Marianne, as far as Gatewood and what he's been doing with the Patterson-Gimlin film? And if so, do you have any opinion on that?
Well, I think anybody that keeps dragging that film back out, it's like, I think it's real. I think the Patty film, I think it's real. I just do. There's too many things. There's too many times that they've gone over it and over it and over it, and they can't definitively ever say it's a hoax. So it's like these people just keep going back out and digging through it, and they do it so that they get their 10 minutes of fame. I don't think he's pulled anything new out of it. I just don't think there's anything new to pull out of it. It's everything that's there has been there. There's nothing new. As our technology changes, then we might be able to do things with it. But that's an old piece of film. You're limited with what you can do with it. And they don't even have the original anymore, right? Am I right on that?
That
it's
is
like
correct.
Copies. Yeah, it's
Yes.
copies. So it's like, it's his 10 minutes of fame. That's what he's trying to do is, ride on somebody else's coattails, because there's nothing new there. It's just something that's been there the whole time. My opinion.
Once we finish that episode, towards the end of the one that you guys will hear tomorrow, Wayne and I talk a little bit about this, and I was blown away to see that he has started a website where you can get your copy of that famous frame 352 with Patty looking back at the camera. It's his interpretation of this. It's his added the hairs that you can see, the eyelashes that you can see. You can get it on a snow globe, which Wayne was very interested in getting. You can get it for $20 on a snow globe. And Wayne had some very interesting things to say. So make sure you guys tune in tomorrow on that episode of That Bigfoot Podcast that's going to drop here. It'll actually drop at midnight, so a little less than 4 hours from now. You can hear Wayne's full response to that. But Wayne, when I sent you that, what did you think about, not only is Gatewood adding to the film, he's adding things that aren't there, but now he's capitalizing on selling these prints of frame 352 as his interpretation of the film. How did you feel about that, my friend?
I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. How can he do it? I mean, Patterson and Gimlin are the ones that came across this being, Patty, all those years ago. They are the ones that should have all the credit for it. How is he able to capitalize all these years later? I want to know the legal shit. There's got to be some kind of legal repercussion for him selling fucking portraits, snow globes. What was some of the other bullshit? Cups. With this,
is it because he altered it? He's able to sell
That's
it.
what. It's a sneak peek to tomorrow. That was my question. That was my question. Has he altered it so much that it's a completely different thing now? Is that how he's able to get away with it?
Yeah.
And the other thing that came up, I actually saw this for the first time when somebody posted about it. It's not my favorite place to hang out, but the Coalition for Critical Thinking on Bigfoot Research on Facebook, it showed up there, and that's why I was able to click over and see some of the things that he was offering for sale. But Stephen Stroffert, who created that group, made a good point, and I think it's fair to say that at least frame 352 has been so exposed to the public over the last 50 plus years. It's a situation where it's basically public domain. So I think that has a part to play in this, that that particular frame is so out there that you could possibly claim that there's no way to police that. So if you wanted to, whatever the case may be, alter it, copy it, whatever, and then sell it, you could probably get away with that just because of public domain. And I think it goes into more of Gatewood has changed it so much. Like Marianne was saying, and you had said before, Wayne, he has added so much to it that it has become more of an artist rendering of the frames.
Exactly.
So I think that's the way that he's able to get away with selling that without anybody causing too much of a stir about it. But here's the thing, another sneak peek that you guys will hear us talk way more about tomorrow's episode. I said, look, just because you can do something, should you? That's the real question. Because you can do it. Exactly. And I say it on the show, there's tons of things you can do, but should you really? Is really the question that it comes down to. So I don't know. There's a lot swirling around. We've not heard the last of him. He's actually doing a full documentary where he's claiming that he's going to show I think it's 58 or 59 seconds. I don't know how many frames it is of the Patterson-Gimlin film that he's going to show in his restoration in its entirety in this documentary I guess it's going to be out at some point in time this year. I don't know. Out of curiosity, I'll probably take a peek, but I don't know. I'm
what
a little
makes
bit
him the expert on this?
Well, that's the other thing. If you look at his latest episode that he did with Meldrum, he interviewed Jeff Meldrum and he had him on there and he was showing him something that he had found in the film and he wanted Jeff's opinion on it. And Jeff is doing his thing. He's talking about the anatomy of the foot and all these things. And then Jeff questions him. I mean, he drills down, Todd, I think he made a mistake in this interview by saying, do you have any questions for me before we get out of here? And Meldrum's like, yeah, actually I do. I'm a little concerned that you're doing this restoration project on the film and you're adding things. And Jeff, to his credit, was talking specifically about this eyelashes. I mean, we've all seen this image that Gatewood has put out there of Patty's close-up face. You can see individual eyelashes. And Meldrum's like, look, dude, this was filmed on 16 millimeter film in 1967. Those eyelashes aren't present in that film.
No, they're not.
So how did they get there? And he asked this question about AI, is it being used, and what the process is. And Gatewood does his Gatewood thing, which is, oh, look over there. Let's talk about something else. I think I said it to Wayne. I might have even said it on the episode. It's like Meldrum asked him this question, like, okay, those eyelashes aren't there. So what process are you using? You're adding artifacts into this data. So it kind of negates what's been there for all these years since 1967. How are you doing this process? And it's one of those things where it's like you ask a direct question like that, and Gatewood goes, well, when I was 6 years old, I had a red bicycle that I used to ride to school. And it used to be snowy sometimes, and it was uphill one way and downhill the other. And by the time he finishes the story that has shit to do with anything to do with the question that was originally asked, nobody knows what the original question was anymore, and he never answers the question. But it boils down to the fact that, in my opinion, he is adding things into this film that aren't originally there. I've seen it on his Facebook page. He's added frames of this film where there's not a large stick or a large tree. And then you look at his version, his restored version, it's there. That, in my opinion, is completely wrong. You are changing the data. You are adding things that aren't there. And that throws it all out of you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater at that point, in my opinion. So I guess we can save the rest of that and table it for when this documentary comes out. We can see what he produces and what it looks like. Because he's claiming, from my understanding, that he's going to do every single frame of this film in the same that he's done some of the stuff that he's released, and we're going to see it in real time, in motion, moving. So I have my concerns. We'd love to hear what you guys have to think. As always, you can send us an email, Brian and/or Wayne at paranormalworldproductions.com. You can leave us a voicemail. The buttons are always right here in the show notes for the show. Before we get to the Sasquatch Savant for the last word of the show, as always, I'm going to kick it back over to you, Marianne. Kind of bring us back to the Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference. Where can people find the information? Where can they get their tickets? What's the last word on Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference 2025?
Well, probably in the next month, tickets will become available. I've got to get that all set up. More than likely, it's going to be on Eventbrite, but you can always go to the Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference Facebook page and look for information there. Now, that is the only place that you are going to be able to sign up for the Campout. Campout is limited. There's only, we can't take that many people out there. So if that is something that you think you all want to do, you're going to need to let me know sooner than later on that, because we had people last year that showed up at the conference that didn't realize we camped out, and, we couldn't take them at the time because, we got to have that good food. So, we got to have plenty of that, but the information will always be on the Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference page. You can reach out to me there. I'll answer any questions that I can for you there. But, I think this year it's going to be better than ever. Our VIP night, the day of the conference, is still at the Phenomenal Relic Center. That place was amazing last year, and then the Campout. I mean, I'm excited about it. Now, every time I talk to Wayne, he makes me more excited. And then, I'm like him. I'm like, can we go next week? Can we just do this next week and be done with it? And then can we do it the week after that? And then, so.
No, we want to wait till October because the skeeters aren't bad in October, right?
That's true. That's true. We don't want to do it during
stop.
the summer because we'll melt and the skeeters will eat us alive.
All right. There you have it, folks. Go check it out. Be a part of the exciting 4th annual 2025 Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference. Come hang out with Wayne, me, all the amazing people that are going to be there. Wayne, as always, even on the live shows, we give the Sasquatch Savant the last word, sir.
Guys, thank you so much for hanging out. All of the continued support, everything you do, we appreciate it all. All of the ratings and reviews, please keep those coming. The voicemails, emails, we love hearing from you guys. Until we get to talk to y'all again, y'all be good to yourselves and be good to each other. Bye.